Hello, and welcome to the section where we got to talk about what mom and dad eat matters, the copycat syndrome. My name is Cordialis Msora Kasago. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist and a board certified lifestyle medicine practitioner. I'm also the mother of three children, and so I understand the challenges and frustrations and joys. Yeah, joys of feeding picky little tummies. And for the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you how you, as a parent, can model healthy eating behaviors so that our little copycats can follow the way that we eat and live healthier lives. Um, we've all had that experience of a child copying what we do. I love this picture that's on your screen. It's of a mother lovingly looking down at her child and wondering, "Child, why won't you eat?" And the child looks up at the mother and says, "But mom, you're not eating." And she says that with those same loving eyes that the mother is looking at her. And such is the story or the theory around the social learning that we do as human beings. Sociologists tell us that behavior is learned through observation of others. And when it comes to healthy eating patterns, parents are the first line of observation for children. And so, therefore, parents are the first teachers. As a result, it's important that we model that behavior that we want to see because they are learning how to eat directly from us. So, in order for us to do this, I have three tips that I'm going to give you. I'll tell you kind of like what the three tips are, and then we're going to go in detail over each one. So, the first tip is for you to create a healthy food environment, right? What we want to do is make healthy eating the easy choice, and it starts by creating that good environment. Next, we want to be role models, and we want to be role models that are good eaters. And so, number two is simply be a good eater. And lastly, it's not just about the parents, but everybody that comes into contact with the child. And rather than the parents trying to do it alone, make it a family affair. After all, food is enjoyed more when it's shared, right? So let's talk about how we go ahead and we create a healthy food environment. What we know is this, right? That food preferences and patterns, they start in the home and they're a strong component of the cultures that we are a part of. From a very young age, our preferences are determined by the cultures that we are born into, and we quickly adopt eating patterns of the people that surround us and the people that we identify the most with. While these may change with time and with age and exposure to others that come from different parts of the world, it's important to note that the homes in which we bring up our children, the homes in which we were brought up in ourselves, are cornerstone to the habits that we will lean on for the rest of our lives and the habits that the children will lean on for the rest of their life as well. And as discussed by the last speaker, it is extremely important that people eat well in order to reduce the risk of various chronic health conditions or non communicable disease. Okay, so what we know about the food environment and why it's so important is because number one, it impacts or influences the food preferences and the patterns that individuals follow. The next thing is that it also impacts the foods that we accept as food or recognize as food, or foods that we simply reject because they're not part of our culture, they're not part of our exposure, they're not part of who we are. And so we don't recognize them as food and we quickly reject them. And also, sometimes we know that they're food, but we simply don't like them. And part of it has to do with the societies in which we were brought up in. And then lastly, that healthy food environment also impacts the amount of food that is eaten. There are cultures such as the Japanese that will tell you to stop eating at a certain point. And so a healthy food environment actually helps you ensure that you are listening to various cues and being able to eat the amount of food that provides the nutrition that your body needs. And so how do we go ahead and we start to create this healthy food environment? What does it look like? It's about the simple fact of number one, stocking good food. Why? Because when you stock good food, you'll eat good food. A healthy food environment starts by making sure that your home has a selection of bright, colorful fruits and veggies, as well as some whole grains, such as sorghum or millet or roller meal, maize meal, and a wide variety of healthy veggie beverages, with water being the number one beverage of choice. Now, if there's one thing that I want you to know about healthy eating, and one thing that I think most registered dietitians will agree upon, is that color is extremely important. The guavas, the pink or the white in them, the bananas, the yellow, the reds and the strawberries, the oranges and the mangoes, the white and the baobab, and the greens and the emphinos. All those foods that you love, those colors are a telltale sign that that food is jam-packed with nutrients, and also gives you some plant chemicals that help fight disease and improve health. So basically, I tell you all this because what I want you to know is that a good, healthy food environment starts with a wide variety of colorful food, because colorful food is where the nutrients lie. So stock good food. And then the next thing is to create healthy food cues. I say make healthy eating the easy choice by creating those food cues or subtle reminders for someone to pick that healthy food. It's quite simple. It's as simple as if you buy a whole watermelon, or maybe it's a pineapple, instead of just putting it on the countertop and waiting for somebody else to come cut it, immediately cut it up into pieces. That way it's ready to eat. And then as you walk by it, you're like, oh, there's some pineapple. And you can pick it up and plop it in your mouth and eat that fruit. Or maybe it's the whole fruit like you see in the picture here. I see the bananas in a bowl, keeping some of your seasonal fruits and vegetables readily available on the countertop. It's easy for you to slip one in your bag. It's easy for your children to come in after a hard day playing outside and just pick that banana that's on the countertop. And then have water readily available and accessible, and keep the soft drinks and other beverages with added sugar out of reach. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that we need to be intentional about the foods that we stock in our homes. And then after being intentional about stocking those foods, be really conscious about being a role model, picking those healthy food choices and eating them on the regular, so that our little ones see that we're eating and we're picking those healthy food choices. And then finally, to convert our picky eaters, we have to show them how the story of our food comes to be, and how that food grows from a seed to something that we all clamor for at the table. So allow your child to get dirty in the garden. As an aside, dirt is good. It introduces kids to a wide variety of good bacteria in their gut, and it is that good bacteria that helps strengthen their immune system and keeps them thriving and healthy. It's also gardening the place where good, healthy behavior begins. So let's get our kids involved so that they know where their food comes from, but also have an opportunity to have food readily available for them. And now, once that food is in the kitchen, allow the kids to participate in age-specific tasks. Don't worry about the mess that they're going to make, because yes, they are going to make a mess. But give your child the opportunity to watch and learn the ropes and story of food from you. Your toddler can actually copy you and help you place ingredients in bowls and maybe even mix them around. Or those that are aged between 4 and 7 can use a cut-proof knife to begin peeling or even slicing soft vegetables, while the older kids can help you on the stove and do some of the cooking and do some of the cutting with a regular knife. But giving an opportunity for the child to participate in the kitchen allows them to see and learn how food is made. And also, when somebody makes the food, you also tend to be interested in tasting the food and eating it at the table and wanting other people to enjoy it. So allow your children to participate in the kitchen. The second tip about healthy eating and how we can model it is to be a good eater. Now, children are very aware of your eating habits as parents, and studies suggest that there's actually a correlation between parents who make healthy food choices and the foods that their children actually pick. If you're sitting enjoying a meal and you kind of hide your vegetables under your pop or your rice, your child is watching, and your child is going to be like, oh, daddy did it, so can I. And so you want to load up your plate with a wide variety of those colorful fruits and vegetables, always leaning on more veggies than the fruit because it's good for you, but also because your child is watching. In fact, I recommend that you start by filling half of your plate with those vegetables and then leaving a quarter for your starches, whether it is your pap or your rice or your spaghetti. And then the last quarter you can fill with some healthy proteins, such as lean pieces of chicken or beef and fish or even some beans. And then if your child is old enough, give them permission to serve themselves so that they will develop their autonomy and start to regulate their own eating. Now, eating good food is not just about putting good food on your plate. I love this video of this mom feeding her child. She gives the child the food, allows the child to say no, and allows the child to select the food that he wants to eat. But watch what happens, right? We think baby is going to eat, but oh no, mom, it's for you. I love mom's facial expressions. She's like, oh my goodness, and oh my gosh, this plum is delicious. She is modeling that healthy behavior. And it's not just about putting the food on your plate and in your mouth. Your body language also matters. Kids are smart. They know when you're kind of bluffing with your facial expressions. But when your tone of voice says, this is delicious. Oh, mommy loves this. It encourages the child to want to eat. So model that behavior and enjoy the fruits and vegetables so that your child can also participate and enjoy the same thing. They're watching. They want to enjoy it too. Now, lastly, make it a family affair. There's a growing body of evidence that indicates that kids who enjoy meals as part of a family unit or with others tend to eat more nutritious meals and maintain a healthier weight. Also, family meals help your young children develop stronger vocabulary and even much quicker. And also, teens that enjoy meals as part of a family are less likely to explore substance abuse, and they're also more likely to get better grades than those that don't. So that's incentive for families to sit down and eat together. I also think that family eating gives the child an opportunity to learn and mimic from others, especially their siblings. And for those older siblings, it's an opportunity for them to role model. So just sit at the table together, but don't just sit at the table. Be intentional about the actions that you take. And I have 3 simple recommendations that I want to conclude with about how we can all sit at the table and eat together. Number 1 is set a regular meal and snack times that everybody knows what they are and what to expect when it's time to eat. Here's a tip. Have no technology at the table, and as a rule of thumb, turn it all off, including the television, so that everybody has no distractions and you can have that conversation that you want to as people are eating. And now, many of us were raised in homes in which we were forced to eat all the foods on the plate. Well, the challenge with this as parents is that we don't control our children's appetites. And unlike adults, kids are naturally really good at listening to their bodies and their internal cues of hunger. That means that they kind of know their appetite kind of is controlled by their bodies. And most kids will not intentionally starve themselves. They will eat when they're hungry and they will stop when they're full. I mean, think back to the time when your child was formula fed or on breast milk. When they were full, did you force them to keep eating? No, you just let them be, right? And it's the same way that we don't want to pressure our children to continue eating. Rather, we want to give them an opportunity to listen to their bodies and then say no. What we do know is that when we continue to pressure our children to eat more, they're more likely to develop a dislike of the food or make meal times even harder. Rather than forcing them to eat, model the behaviors that you want to see and control the things that you can control, which is number one, the time that your child eats, and number two, the food that they have access to. Next is don't pressure your child to eat, similar to what we just discussed. Allow them to say no and give them the opportunity to pick the foods that they want. If they refuse to eat a certain food, keep exposing them to it, but you make sure that you enjoy it. Some studies suggest that it takes as many as 10 to 15 times before a child actually starts to eat a food. So continue to offer the food and you continue to enjoy it. Your child will take it. Finally, food is always better when it is shared, and the joys of role modeling are always so much more intensified when there are more people to follow. So make it a family affair. Rather than have different times to eat, just sit down together and make healthy eating part of your lifestyle so that your children can follow suit. Now, remember, food is important to a child and food is important for growth. Enjoy family meals together. Enjoy eating a wide variety of food, the spinaches, the pumpkin leaves, amadumbe, amasi, sweet potato, beetroot. They're all part of a glorious, healthy diet. Enjoy them more, and even more importantly, allow your child to fall in love with their flavors. They're watching, and be a good role model for them. That's all the time that we have together. I would love to connect with you. Here's how you can connect with me. And remember, eat well. The copycats are watching. Thank you.